Greetings YouTube, Furious Tomato here, back to the next segment of my Best Gods in the Game series. And as usual, my dog wants to be a jerk, but whatever. So this video we are looking at the top solo laners, so I hope you enjoy it. Thank you. So number 6 on my list of solo laners is Mr. Zhang Kui. I'm using his Ghostbuster skin from the Odyssey for this video, but just because it's pretty cool.
When someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes! You don't want to know what happens when I cross the beach.
Anyhow, fun voice back there. Anyhow, so Zhang Kui's kit, rather. Sorry, I say that 3 times fast. He has a demon bag, and he can store up to 20 demons, and each demon gives him 2 protections, so he can get plus 40 magical and physical protection, which is very good for solo lane. Plus being solo, he can stack that up pretty quickly and keep that full, or kind of. Anyhow, so solo lane is really about sustain. Your job is to not lose your lane, so you have to be there as much as possible. And Zhang Kui has some great sustain. His number 1, he pastes a card on enemies in front of him, marking them as a demon, slowing and damaging them each second while they're marked. So it lasts for 5 seconds, and then his number 2 is Exorcism. It's a cone ability. Let's see here, goes out in the cone, and what that does is it pulls the little card off of the enemies and dealing additional damage, as well as healing Zhang Kui for each card that he removes. So that's a big part of his sustain. Makes him very difficult to kill. Kind of the deal with the Expose Evil and the Exorcism is, though, you don't want to just use the Exorcism right away, because what happens is you need to let it go at least 3 seconds, for a min-max type thing. Simply because when you pull them off, it'll do 50% of the damage instantly. You want to at least let 50% of the damage tick prior to pulling them off to get the most out of it. His Book of Demons is damage, an area around him, as well as a stun. It's a relatively small area, as you can see. It's the wrong button. And then, if the target is marked, they take 2x damage. So, kind of when you go into a team fight, what you're going to want to do is use your 1, your Expose Evil, and then your 3, because they take the double damage for being marked. And then by that time, go ahead and use your Exorcism, because a couple of seconds have ticked away and you won't give up any damage. His ultimate, called Recall Demons. The demons pulse out of his bag, and he doesn't actually have to have any demons in his bag to use his ult. What the deal there is, when using his ult, the protections he got from the demons in his bag is doubled for the duration of his ult. So you get 2 per stack. I'm at 20 stacks here, so that's 40 protections. While he's using his ult, that jumps to 80 for the duration of the ult. So it's a good deal. So anyhow, so that is Zhang Kui, and the items that I have for him: penetration boots. Bancroft's Talon is really important for Zhang Kui. With that heal, doing the damage in the heal, plus Bancroft's, he's so annoying, so hard to kill. Definitely need the penetration, and since his abilities are kind of centered around him, you want the Void Stone, because like I said, he's got to be pretty close for most of his abilities. Breastplate of Valor, this is a situational item. I like Breastplate of Valor on solo laner simply because they're generally going to be, the gank's going to be coming from an assassin, which are obviously all physical damage dealers. So I like this as my cooldown item, gives me the physical protection, and lots of mana for that additional sustain. More penetration, and Ratatouille. So anyhow, that's Zhang Kui, number 6. Number 5 on my list of solo lane gods is Guan Yu. So Guan Yu's kit. Guan Yu gains force of will as he takes damage. Each instance of damage he receives charges up his conviction ability, increasing its healing by up to 2x after 20 hits. So basically that's just his heal. Cool thing about his heal is healing friendly gods reduces all cooldowns by 2 seconds rather, which is quite cool. So you can use his heal to reduce cooldown on both his dash and his Talu assault, and obviously his ult as well. So anyhow, so Guan Yu in the solo lane is very, very annoying. He's got his heal, so obviously he's got some pretty good sustain there. He's got his dash for the escape, and then he's got his number 3, which, well, plus his dash. When you dash through somebody, they get slowed, as well as taking a pretty significant amount of damage. And then hitting the enemy gods lowers his cooldowns by 2 seconds. So you want to be using the combination of his Warrior's Will and his heal to keep your cooldowns low. So it takes a little bit of practice. It's kind of like when to use those. And then his Talu Assault, he spins his blade in a controlled but furious display, slicing enemies for damage every 0.3 seconds for 3 seconds. That's 9 total hits. Or 10, sorry. Each hit steals enemy protections, given Guan Yu. Guan Yu is immune to knockback for the duration. Now, the interesting thing about this is the protection stolen maxes out at 3 stacks. So realistically, like when you're playing Guan Yu, a common thing to do is do your Talu spin, but cut it short. Pick up those 3 stacks, and then you want to right click and you dash through them, whatever, and you heal, and you can see that his cooldown is, it's just like he had 4 seconds left to go back before his Talu was back up. So you like I said, you spin that, get your stacks, dash through them, then you can do your heal. He's just so difficult to kill, between stealing your protections, the heal, the slow, as well as putting out some pretty good damage. His ult gives him great utility, and you can hit, you can drop off, and then stupid log out of the way. And whoever's near when you get off your horse, you can do that by right clicking, obviously. Will be stunned, and stun. 1.5 seconds. They're also getting slowed, and then you can see here he's got a damage escalation on his ult. So each hit that you do on the same target increases by 20% each hit. So it can be very, very painful, to say the least. But between that and like his dash, he's hard to gank. He's just he's immune to the knockups and all that, and he's able to slow you by dashing through you. He's just very, very difficult to gank. Solo lane's all about sustain. So, yeah, that's Guan Yu. His items, and I go pretty, it's kind of maybe a weird build, I don't know. I like it simply because he's impossible to get away from. He's damn near impossible to kill. And the utility that he brings between his stun, the armor reductions, and the group heal, all that stuff just makes him a very strong contributing member to the team. I didn't even get my actives. Anyhow, so for his items, go Warrior Tabby, Jotun's Wrath for cooldown, Hide the Urchin, Stone of Gaia, Frostbound Hammer, and Keen Size. So yeah, between the Hide the Urchin and Stone of Gaia, he's pretty tanky. He's gonna have close to 200 magical defense and about 150 physical. So between that and all of his slowing and the immunity to knock up or knock back while doing his assault, his stun, I mean he's a beast. Okay, so that's Guan Yu coming in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, my solo lane list is Chang'e.
The hair always wins, right guys?
So her voice pack is her, I hope it's a rabbit. Anyhow, very masculine, right? I think.
How do you catch a unique rabbit? Unique up on it.
Anyhow, so her voice pack's a rabbit, which is a little disconcerting because it's like some frail, looking Chinese woman. Sounds like a not so frail dude. Anyhow, so Chang'e's kid, her rabbit, will go purchase things for her, which is great. If you got the health and mana and don't need to go back, you can just send the rabbit. It's no faster than running back yourself, but it keeps you in lane longer. So back to that all-important sustain that I've been talking about. The other part of her passive is you get a 25% mood speed buff when you're using one of her dances, which obviously all of her abilities are called dances. They're some sort of dance move. And then she doesn't suffer a backspeed penalty while doing it. So which allows you to use your number 1 while kind of moving backwards because it's a cone in front of you. Speaking of her number 1, Crescent Moon Dance just does damage in an arc in front of you. Moonlit Waltz is a very powerful ability. It's an evasive spin, and she's unable to be hit during the dance. It's very short, you have to time it very well, and it takes some getting used to, but it's very, very strong. You can use that to avoid an ult. It's just 1.5 seconds, I think, or something like that. But if you see Ra is gonna ult you, then you can use that. And see, so I took no damage and actually restored mana. So there's the 1, the crescent. And auto attacking, Polynomic kind of working. So in a one-on-one situation, Chang'e is very, very difficult to kill. Between the damage, her evasive maneuvers via the Moonlit Waltz, her Moonflower Dance is a heal, but it also does damage, of course. And then it has a very important component for a solo laner. Since solo lane is all about sustain, you're going to see a lot of gods with the ability to self-heal. This 50% healing reduction is huge for solo lane. That's for 4 seconds. You can see the cooldown on this is 6 seconds. So yeah, there's not much downtime when they don't have reduced healing if you're not, if you're kind of in a long engagement, so to speak. Her ultimate, Waxing Moon, is arguably, I'd say it's in the top 5 ults in the game. And what that does is it's a relatively generous area of stun. Your positioning is really important when you use this, but the cool thing about it is that it's a progressive stun, meaning like, okay, so the first person that gets hit by it is stunned for 1 second, and then plus 1 second for each god already stunned. So if you're going into a team fight and say the support's in the front and the caster's in the back, well, if they're kind enough to line up for you, which doesn't happen often, obviously, but if you're able to position yourself well, if they are clumped up, say doing Fire Giant or something like that, you can potentially get a 5-second stun on whoever is the unfortunate soul at the back of the pack, which is usually your your burst damage. They're usually pretty soft and squishy, so they hang back. So if your positioning is right, Chang'e's ult can be devastating in a team fight. Yeah, she's got great sustain, very, very difficult to kill. Doesn't do a lot of damage, but the amount of utility that she brings with the heals and that is huge as far as the team's concerned. With her items, and like I said, some of this is situational, but she's a focus. I like to have her cooldown reduction capped. Once again, Breastplate of Valor, solo lane, you're going to be getting ganked by the, or attempted ganks from the jungler. Voidstone, simply because your abilities are relatively close range. A Divine Ruin. Now, I like to get this on Chang'e in the solo lane, simply because her 3 does 50% healing reduction for 4 seconds. Divine Ruin gives 40% reduced healing for 8 seconds. So that is essentially, you can have them shut down 90% healing reduction for 4 seconds, and during the 2 seconds of downtime, they're still got 40% reduced healing. So Divine Ruin on Chang'e in a solo lane against like a healing type god is it's just beyond annoying. She will drive you nuts. Polynomicon just for a little extra damage, some lifesteal, the mana, whatever, and then Ra Tahuti. For actives, Purification Beads, pretty standard. Greater Aegis. Typically, because the two Aegis versions, there's Greater Aegis and Aegis Pendant. The difference between them is Greater Aegis, you cannot, you become immobilized. But the difference is that you can use this while stunned. This one you cannot use while stunned, but you can move. So it's kind of up to you, depending upon your playstyle. I like this one on Chang'e, simply because she has the move speed bonus, she's got the heal, she's got some tools that she can get away, so that couple of seconds, because her cooldowns are so short. Usually if you use that, you're able to get a heal off and slow them, or whatever, and be able to get away. But the main thing is just surviving that stunned period. So yeah, it's just personal preference, but I like the Greater Aegis on Chang'e. So that is Chang'e coming in at number 4. At number 3 on my list comes in with Loki, Trickster God. Some people like Loki as jungle. I think that he is better served in solo lane. His kit, starting with his passive, he does 20% additional damage when hitting behind an enemy. His number 1 is Vanish. It gives him 4 seconds of stealth, gives him a 35% move speed buff, and when hitting a target while vanished, or within 2 seconds of coming out of Vanish, it applies a bleed to the target for additional damage. It's decent. It's not, life-changing or ending most of the time. I mean, it can be, but it's yeah, the poison's not bad. So yeah, number 2 is Decoy. This is generally what you're going to be prioritizing. I mean, obviously you're going to put a point in Vanish pretty early, whatever, but Decoy is going to be your wave clear. Aim Strike is your kind of primary single target damage ability, and then which is just it hits for a bunch of additional damage, and then slow them by 25% for 3 seconds. And then his ultimate is Assassinate, which teleports you to the enemy god, and you backstab them. So Vanish, hits 3, and our people. So the reason I like Loki in the solo lane is his with his decoy, it taunts the minions, so they all kind of cluster around. It keeps them, tightly bunched, so to speak. And then, so his wave clear is just decent. It's not great, but the ability to stealth, and with the damage output, and then especially with his ult, he will control his lane very, very well most of the time, because the opposing solo laner, they're generally just kind of scared of Loki, simply because he can vanish and you lose sight of him. And when the jungler is coming in to gank, there's just no getting around that. If played conservatively, just, you know, farm, and when it's time to gank, you know, just, you know, pop, you know, 1, 3, and 4. You know, almost anybody's going to go down between you and the jungler. So it's very, you know, easy to win your lane on Loki as long as you're not overly aggressive. So as far as his items that I like on him, boots, transcendence is pretty much a must if you're going to solo lane Loki. You need to be able to spam your decoy every wave. Jotun's Wrath for cooldown, Hydra's Lament to cap your cooldown, and then Rage and Deathbringer. Like beads, because, you know, I mean, yeah, don't want to get CC'd, and then sprint. So, that's Loki coming in for me at number 3 for solo lane. Coming in at number 2 in my solo lane gods is Aphrodite. Her kit, gain Aphrodite's favor is a blessing, and that 30% of all mana regenerated by Aphrodite is granted to her soulmate. Her number 1, her kiss, blows a kiss to an ally god, linking them, giving them both increased movement speed. If it hits an ally, it has a reduced 3-second cooldown. If it gets hits an enemy god, they're stunned, and Aphrodite gets jealous, or soulmate gets jealous, increasing their damage. So this is very, very powerful when it comes to ganks from a jungler. You get a 20% movement speed buff. You get 20% damage increase for your jungler for ganks, and a 1-second stun on the enemy if you kiss, you know, the enemy as well after kissing. You're linking up with your ally. The back off is a very good ability to use for ganks. When the jungler's coming in, it knocks them back. So if you can kind of, you know, circle around them a little bit, you know, pop your sprint, get past them, link up with your jungler coming in. I mean, it's going to take some coordination, but it does have a slow. It knocks them back towards your tower, towards your minions, whatever. 25% slow. It's just for 2 seconds, but it does quite a bit of damage as well. Her Lovebirds, which is kind of what you're going to be prioritizing, is a decent wave clear, and her laning phase isn't real strong, but she is very, very difficult to kill. With her back off, she can, you know, she can protect herself very well between that, the kiss for the stun, as well as has her heal that does damage as well. Her Undying Love, she can use this by herself, or if she is linked to a soulmate, it affects both of them, and it gives them 2 seconds of invulnerability. It's good for dealing with some of the higher damage output alts. You know, say like Kukulkan or Heboah or something like that, kind of negate those alts. It's a good counter to those. So while Aphrodite's laning phase isn't super strong, her late game is game changing if she's played well. So as far as the items that I get on her, cooldown boots. She's probably her and Kronos are the only ones that I get Doom Orb on. She's very difficult to kill, so this is a pretty safe and very beneficial with the MP5 because of the regeneration that she gives to her soulmate via her passive. That MP5 is pretty helpful. So she can keep that stacked up pretty well. Breastplate of Valor, once again, getting ganks from jungle who's physical, so you want that protection, and that'll cap your cooldown reduction. Rod of Asclepius, increased healing, increased movement speed, some health. I like Gem of Isolation on Aphrodite, simply because her doves, and then with her back off, that basically gives a 50% slow with her back off, which is very, very strong. And then Ratatouille. Beads, and I like Sprint simply because of the way that her kit is set up. You're going to have to kind of, get in position. Like I said, she's kind of hard to kill, so it's not so much escaping, although, I mean, sometimes you need to use it for an escape, but most of the time it's getting in position for a gank is where the sprint comes in for me. So, like I said, Aphrodite's mostly about late game. Very, very, very strong late game in team fights. She can definitely turn the tide. So she comes in at number 2. And my number 1 pick for solo lane is Senior Chalk.
You hit like a vegetarian.
Besides having probably the best voice pack in the game, he is very, very strong in solo lane. His sustain is amazing. He's very difficult to kill. Has some escapes, and he brings a great amount of use to a team fight. So towards like end game, late game, mid to late, whatever. Once those team fights really start kicking in, Chuck has a huge impact. So as far as kit's concerned, his overflow is his passive, 5 basic attacks. Next ability costs no mana, which is great for his sustain. Number 1 is Thunderstrike, throws his axe, and just does some damage. The thing about the Thunderstrike with the axe, it has a synergy with each of his other abilities. He's his number 2, he spins the axe around him, and any enemy god that it hits buffs him protection-wise. He gets 20 protections, physical and magical, from each enemy god that it hits. So potentially you could get 100, although that's pretty rare. If you were to throw his axe and within 5 seconds hit his number 2, he'll dash to it, and with this ability he can actually dash through walls. So you can use that both as an escape or to like steal blue buff or something from the enemy. You can see here, you throw that, so it's pretty cool. His number 3 ability is called Rain Dance, which is a self-heal. It also slows down nearby enemies, and if his axe is on the ground somewhere, it will spawn a second rainstorm where his axe is, so he gets a slowing effect. So it's very hard to run away from Chalk if he's on your tail. And then his ultimate is called Storm Call, and when he goes up in the air for a couple seconds and slams his axe down, silencing nearby enemies for 3 seconds, which is just massive in a team fight. And if his axe is, as well as doing damage, obviously, if his axe is in the area, it does additional damage as well as knocking up the enemy. So, so anyhow, as far as items, what I like to get on Chuck, and obviously this is just going to depend upon how bursty your enemy team is or whatever. So I mean, if it was a very high damage dealing team, then I'd probably swap out Wingblade with Hide of the Urchin, which would be much earlier since it's a stacking item. But so anyhow, kind of like my default, just general team composition: Warrior Tabby Boots, Jotun's Wrath, because for the mana and cooldown reduction, Shifter Shield, Keen's Eyes, Frostbound Hammer, and Wingblade. As far as actives, Wrath of the Gods, the usual. And then I like Weakening Curse on Chalk in the solo lane, simply because it's typically going to be going against a healing class god. So I mean, you can just really shut down pretty much anybody. And between that and his heal and just everything he's got going on, 1v1, I don't know many gods that could take him. Maybe like a late game Kali or something like that. But anyhow, what do you have Kali could with the healing reduction? Let's see, from his his passive or active rather. So anyhow, that's Chalk. Very, very strong in solo lane. There are additional gods that are very effective in the solo lane. Like Vamana, Osiris. I mean, there's a bunch. A lot of different gods can solo. I like Chalk because of the utility he brings to the team fight with his ultimate. And it's not that long of a cooldown, just under a minute. And then just his ability to stay in the lane just for so long without, having to go back. So, anyhow, that is Chalk, my number 1 choice for solo lane. Questions, comments, please leave them below. And as always, much appreciated. Subscribe. Thanks again.
Get to the chaka!